I would entertain a motion for a transitional board chair.
Nominate Ricky Davidson as transitional board chair.
Second.
Ricky Davidson has been nominated and seconded. Are there other nominations?
I nominate Christina Naylor.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. But I'll nominate David Scholes.
David Scholes has been nominated. Is there a second?
Second.
Start writing your title. In the interest of, how would you like to do this? Would you like to do it through a ballot by writing names, or would you like to just raise your hands? Raise hands? Okay. Any other nominations? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of Ricky, please raise your hand. All those in favor of Christina, please raise your hand. All those in favor of David, please raise your hand. Okay, the vote is 6 for Ricky, 3 for Christina, and 1 for David. So Ricky Davidson is the new chair.
Then we forgot to ask Ricky if he wanted it.
I just assumed that wasn't an option. So now we need to take nominations to elect a board clerk for the transitional board. Is there any nominations? Clerk.
I nominate Kim Price.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? I'll give Kim the option. I didn't take on for myself.
I told Christine she could before she did.
Right.
That's why I jumped right in.
Excellent. Any other nominations? Seeing none. All in favor of Kim Price as clerk for the transitional board, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Kim is our clerk. Thank you. And then we need to set a transitional board meeting schedule. And this is where we're all going to need to help each other out here because all of us currently sit on boards. So we have board meeting schedules already. We don't want to set board meeting schedules that conflict with other board meeting schedules. So maybe it would help if we just, for the sake of the public, but also for all of us to know, because we all don't know when your meetings are. So why don't we start with Putney and work our way to the high school. So Putney?
Second and fourth Thursday evenings.
Second and fourth Thursday in the evening. Okay, that's Putney. And next is Guilford.
First and third Mondays.
First and third Mondays. Okay. Dummerston?
Second and fourth Tuesdays.
Second and fourth Tuesdays is Dummerston. And then Brattleboro Town?
First and third Wednesdays.
First and third Wednesdays. And then the high school meets on first and third Mondays also. And I'm assuming these are all in the evening, 7 o'clock start time? Is that pretty standard?
We start at 5.
We start at 5.
Brattleboro Town starts at 5, other one starts at 6:30. High school starts at 7.
6:30.
6:30, okay.
Chair,
Yes.
I know Vern's not part of these meetings, but they're second and fourth Mondays. If we could avoid second and fourth Mondays so that Frank or I could be at Vernon. Sorry, Vernon. Though Vernon's not a part of this board, they meet second and fourth Mondays, so I would like to try to avoid those Mondays.
All right. Yes.
I'd like to move that we schedule the transitional board schedule for the first and third Thursdays.
First and third Thursdays. And that doesn't conflict with anybody, correct?
Other than
What
this
is our
Thursday.
SU meeting?
It should change.
Except that we have
Yeah.
Well, we won't have it
this
on.
week.
You guys, everybody needs to use microphones.
Yes.
Sorry. So we have an SU meeting this Thursday, but
So we did the first and third Thursdays as suggested. and we start with the third Thursday, so we do the third Thursday of April will be our first meeting. Is that, yes?
That's a Thursday of April vacation. I'm not sure if that.
One other factor we need to figure out is about vacation times. Yes.
Did we get a second? We need a second. I'll second the motion.
Is there a second for David's motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, so Christine?
I just think we should maybe get started sooner versus later in getting things done, so waiting until after April vacation might be quite a delay.
Yep.
So there is no meeting for any of your boards on April 10th, which is next Wednesday. If we wanted to start there, and people could look at calendars and see moving forward after that.
Kim?
David just mentioned the VSBA meeting.
Sorry,
Yeah. Okay.
there's no.
Yeah,
That's one meeting, so that's.
I have a conflict that evening as well. Just let's say that. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Does anybody have an amended suggested time? If we don't, maybe just for our first meeting and then we can go to the third.
I move we start the, could your conflict be worked around with an April 10th meeting?
Okay. Yes.
So we started earlier or later, so
Yeah, you started earlier, and I would have to leave by 7. So that's a conflict I have.
It's 5 o'clock.
Does 5 o'clock on April 10th work for everybody for a first meeting?
As long as it's in this building somewhere, because I have a meeting at 3:45. BAMS, that will be done by 5.
Okay.
It doesn't, you'll be on the 10th. So everyone except for Kelly
And Kim.
And Kim.
and Kim.
Oh,
That's-
Kim can't either.
Okay. So that's not going to work.
But you can't be there later.
What about Monday? Next Monday?
That's somebody's second Monday, Vernon. Oh,
That'd be
That's Vernon.
That's
We
Vernon, so
wouldn't have
that
any
doesn't count.
administrators here for that.
Well, I can, sorry, Carrie, I can try to get someone to cover for me on Monday. I would just not want it to be every second and fourth Monday, but we could start with
Monday. Second Monday. That's the 8th.
Next Monday.
Yeah, so this coming Monday, the 8th. And we just need to figure out a time and a place for that. Does anybody have a suggestion for a time and a place just for that Monday meeting?
Can we just do 7 o'clock here?
We could do 7 o'clock. I'm sure we can find someplace here in the building. I'll talk with administration to square what that is. And
Can we do it earlier than 7?
Yeah,
Get it started.
yeah.
We got a mom here that might need to be home.
This is the worst possible thing for moms these times, at any time.
Right.
Unless we meet at like 3 to 5.
So why don't we say 6 on Monday? And we'll do it someplace here. We'll get it warned tomorrow so that we're good there. And we'll get an email out to where in the building it'll be. I know the high school usually meets in the Cusick conference room on the second floor in the Career Center area, and that's usually a decent place to meet. So, but I'll just make sure that that's available.
Can we rotate towns after that?
Yeah, I think we should. I think we kind of just need to get the first one under our belts and then move on. So, transitional board first meeting will be on April 10th, and then we will go to
April 8th.
April 8th. Sorry, April 8th. Yes, sorry. And then we will move on to the first and the third Thursdays, except for we still have that problem with April vacation.
Did we say we do?
In lieu of, I
gave it this week.
understood the 8th to be in lieu of that.
Okay. So then the next one then our next meeting would not be until the 1st of May.
Yeah, you're right, that's not enough.
That's not good. So we have a lot to do.
Is April vacation a conflict for people?
I would like people not to answer that question because we are on camera, and if people are traveling, that's not a good thing to put out there.
When is the vacation?
Vacation is
15th?
April 15 through 19.
But what if we did April 24th, the Wednesday? Because I don't believe we have a Brattleboro Town School Board meeting that night.
We do not.
So we could do the 24th.
Okay, so just for the month of April, we're talking Monday the 8th, and then Wednesday, April 24th is our second meeting in April. And then we will go to the first and third Thursdays for starting in May.
Hopefully.
Starting in May, does that seem like it would, in theory, at least work? And we can always adjust as we get closer to that.
We may want to meet more frequently and get this stuff done.
We may want to do that too, but let's get the first couple meetings under our belt, at least have those scheduled. So is there a suggestion for the April 24th meeting as to where we should do that in the realm of rotations?
Dummerston would be delighted to host.
Okay. Do we want to still go at 6 o'clock? Does that work for
I think
everybody?
that's a good time.
Which meeting is this?
The 24th.
Oh, I thought we were, okay, that's the Dummerston.
So you were saying April 8th is 6:30?
No, April 8th is 6 o'clock here at the in the high school, and then April 24th, which will be our second meeting in April, scheduled meeting in April, will be in Dummerston at 6 o'clock. And then at one of those other meetings, we'll start scheduling out where the other meetings will be based on what we need to do. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And we'll hope for in May being the first and third Thursdays will be our standard meeting days. Okay, so we have a schedule. The next thing we need to do is we need to set an election date. And because we have statute and things like that, I know that the administration has been in conversations with all the town clerks to figure out when we need to do that. And that election date, just to remind me, Lyle, would be for electing the permanent board members that would go in effect once they're sworn in, and the proposed budget. Yes? Yes.
So we would set the election date, and then the following day, that would be the day that we would have to warn articles and warn budget meetings, yes.
Okay. So basically, we need to set just the election date, and I think the town clerks all agreed on which date?
So if you read the document from the state, they suggested that we have petitions due on April 8th. That I feel is not I would advise you not to use that date because that gives people 2 days. Yes.
Is this on?
Yes.
I would suggest even longer. I talked to our town clerk and I asked her what the length of time for petitions normally is, and it's 4 to 6 weeks. And, you know, that may be long, but I think the 1 or 2 weeks is really quick for somebody to get them.
So the problem with putting the election off later than May 21st is that we will not have a budget by the end of June, by July 1.
So what was the date
So the date the state recommended was that we have petitions due Monday the 8th and then the election on May 14th. Barb counted if we have petitions not due until April 15, we could push the election back until May 21st. That would mean May 22 would be the day that the new merged board would have to approve the budget, and then we would have the annual meeting on June 25th, as was just approved. My sincere hope is that anyone that is hoping to run for the merged board would attend all of these meetings so that they have a really strong working knowledge of what the budget is and what any of the amendments to any articles are, so that even though the next day is the day we would be warning the budget, it would not be the first time that merged board members would be seeing the budget.
I'm interested in the process that you articulated, that if we had the election any later, we wouldn't have a budget in time. Explain the amount of time needed between the end of the election and the budget date.
So the time is after the election of the merged board. That board has to approve the budget, and then there's the 40-30 days. So we would have to have a maximum of 40 and a minimum of 30 days to warn the budget and the articles that we would be voting on. So we'd have to count out from the day after the election when you approve the budget and the warning articles.
Does that make sense to everybody?
What was the day of the election again, Lyle? The petitions are the 15th.
Yeah, May 21.
May 21st. So what we're deciding right now is to set the election date, which is proposed to be May 21st, which is the third Tuesday in May. And petitions for that school board would be due to your town clerks, to everybody's town clerks, whoever's choosing to run, by April 15th, which is a week from this coming Monday. So then that gives people time to then do their things until then.
And back to our conversation earlier, and I read the law. That's the most convoluted law I've ever seen in my life. The law goes backwards rather than forwards. And so you're sure that that is within the 6 Mondays?
Yes, and what we did was actually look back at some warnings that Annette Cappy had done, and she also had, Annette Cappy I highly respect as having done that work for many years, so yes, the day the petitions are due counts as the first Monday.
Well, our town clerk also agreed with that, but you know, just reading it yourself, it's weird.
All right. So is there a motion to approve May 21st as our election day for the new board?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Opposed or abstentions? No? Okay, so May 21st is our election day. And then the next thing on our agenda is to determine the name of our new entity. So we get to, it sounds like we get to name this thing forever, and so that sounds kind of exciting in one level, but also kind of scary.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
Can you put that off? I've been trying to come up with all kinds of names, and I certainly don't want one of these, you know, Wyndham Southeast Supervisory Union, Unity, whatever school boards that goes on forever. It would be nice if we could come up with something that represented our area. So
yeah, right.
So there's a couple of approaches to this, but it is it's a very time-sensitive issue. So the State Board of Education did give us a name when they created Wyndham Southeast Unified Union District. It is a typical name across the state for these regional merged systems. This group could also create a doing business as name, but the issue that I'm raising is I need to proceed with federal tax ID number, state tax ID number, Department of Labor ID number, a variety of legal entity registrations. And as I mentioned earlier, we were directed to begin that process. So I have moved forward with the first one that then allows us to do all the others, the IRS employer ID number. So I would encourage you to vote on a name today, a legal name, and then if you want to add a doing business as at some future point, that would be fine, but it would allow us to begin the process of
And what is the drop dead date for all of these things that you have to deal with?
Well, there's a variety of drop dead dates, but in order to qualify for grants and apply for the about $3 million in the federal grants, we have to have something called the DUNS number and a registration, and it's called the SAMS registration number. Those, they advise that we should leave at least 2 months to complete that process. But I have to have the other processes in front of that done. So we really should have started a month ago, now it's about as late as we can go to have a good probability of success.
Dave? Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's on.
What about the Wyndham Southeast School District?
So you're dropping the unified union?
Yeah,
So we do have a tax ID number.
Just for cameras.
We do have a federal tax ID number for the Wyndham Southeast Unified Union District that's created by the State Board of Ed. So if you change that name, we will have to try to undo that work.
Sounds as if we're going to have to go with, once again, with what the state is telling us to do.
Emily?
If we vote for it.
What was the deadline for identifying a name? Like you called it a operating as name. What was it called?
Yeah, it's the doing business as.
When do we need to have that?
I would have to research that. I don't know, but I've heard that these are the strategies that other systems are using to make sure we move the legal process.
I see a hand in the audience. Spoon?
Spoon and garbage. Well, I hope at the very least you get rid of the unified union stuff like that, as Dave suggested. Quite frankly, I don't see why you shouldn't take a day or two to have some fun and think of some other names and see if just very quickly you came up with something interesting and enjoyable. And I don't think you need be quite so awed and cowed by the state. They are just people like yourself who make up rules, and if you tell them you can't quite comply, but you'll get it tomorrow, they'll live. And just have some fun. Make up see, maybe you'll think of something that's interesting.
I had fun. Can I articulate my fun name?
Can you turn your mic on?
Make sure your mic's on. Yes.
The Wyndham Southeast Forced Union School District.
I could fill out the application for that legal, whatever PIN number we needed, business number.
I appreciate your sense of humor. I'd like to see us move forward, formalizing the name that was given to us by the state that Frank and Lyle have already been moving forward with. I don't think we have the luxury of time right now to spend on a name, and I don't think there's anything that precludes us from coming back to this discussion once we've become more of a unified district and have more people at the table and have more time to think about it.
Yep. Also, just want to make sure folks are aware that the terms that are being used are in the statutes as well. In a variety of places, there's a statute for a supervisory union, there's a statute for a unified union, there's a statute for a union school. So these are not arbitrary names. They are directly linked with the way in which an entity has been formed, and they link to the statutes that provide oversight.
sure that's true, but I don't think that that means that we have to accept it. And I think one of the reasons that we're here, and one of the reasons this has been such a difficult process, is because we've gotten so much direction from the state, and we've been frustrated so many times in trying to make it fit our area, our region. And I think that this is not a big deal, but I think it's symbolic of how we're going to proceed. We're going to just say, okay, it's not convenient to change it because the agency doesn't like it that way, or it's extra work for, or extra numbers that have to be filed. Or do we want to have what represents us? Do we want to name ourselves, or do we want to be named by the state? I think it's really a question of how we're going to proceed. Just in the operation of this board and the opposite operation of this union. Is it going to be bang, bang, bang by the book, or is it going to be what these communities have asked for?
Rick, there's a hand up over there.
Yes.
Part of the name, votes matter, something, something.
I can't hear you.
Votes matter.
Votes matter. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. My turn. I'm still learning to be called on, I'm sorry.
That's good. Okay.
I really like the Wyndham Southeast School District name, and I wondered how difficult and long is the process, Frank, to file the appropriate business stuff? What is the process? Can you explain that?
Sure. So we have the federal tax ID number is relatively quick. It's fortunately it's probably a day. Then there's the state withholding. So that's Department of Taxes. I actually submitted an application for that 2 days ago based on the agency of Ed's direction. That's probably a week or two. There's a Department of Labor. I need the state tax department first, and then I get the Department of Labor application and filing. There's a tax exempt certificate number, sales and use, that comes in after those are obtained. And then we have that DUNS number and this AMS number, which are very important in terms of our early education services. They receive about $4 million in federal grants. Wyndham Southeast Supervisory Union receives about $3 million in grants. We have to have those. Those are the biggest concerns that I've been told from other systems that have gone forward, that those are not particularly quick turnarounds. We don't have a specific date, but there are deadlines for filing for the application for those funds well in advance of July 1st. So we can't interface with the application process if we don't have these numbers. No, I'm familiar with how it works, and you cannot do that. You can't. The state has gone into a grants management system, and you simply cannot log into the system, and there's nobody to call and say, is there a workaround? So these are known transition challenges, and that's why we've been encouraged to stay with provisions of statute and what the state board had recommended.
Yeah.
I just have 2 questions. So am I correct in understanding that if the board were to choose a new name tonight, then that would only set you back about 3 or 4 days in the process that you've already initiated with the unified union name? And then also my second question is there any repercussions or legal reason that we would need to have the description of the basis of this formation in the name of the school district? Because you mentioned that's how they usually do it.
There are several merge systems that have moved forward. The one just to the north of us, who knows, the West River Modified Union School District. So they used that name for the legal entity, but then they've created a West River Valley District as their doing business as name. But there are several entities that have created names that nothing to do with the legacy system. Often those are systems that were not, as cohesive as Wyndham Southeast has been.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
We have many, many famous things around here that we could choose in the whole district. We have Brattle, we have the granite quarries, we have the confluence of West River and Connecticut, we have, we're called the Banana Belt. We could do that. We could go, or northern Massachusetts as far as Burlington's concerned. There are many things that we could put together, and I'd like to see at least eventually a different name, if not the official name.
Jamie, something?
Just that I was really struck by David's question about, and the frustration that many of us have come to the table with, and so one of my hopes is that we would ask you, Frank, to go with a recommendation of this body, as that was number 6 for us on our agenda tonight, which was to determine the name for our new entity. If the Agency of Education advised that that process begin prior to this meeting when that was to be decided, I'm just wanting to make sure as a body that we support you as our administrators to work with us and as much as you do with the Agency of Education, because it just feels like if we're going to have accountability in our communities, we're going to have a mechanism by which we participate in the process of how we engage with our schools.
Kim?
I honestly don't have an issue with the name, but knowing that people do and that it is a sore spot, I move that we call ourselves the Wyndham Southeast School District.
That's a motion. Is there a second? Second. All right. Is there any discussion on that motion?
You're saying for our official name, and then we could do something else later.
Yes.
No discussion.
So clarifying the consequences of changing the Wyndham Southeast Unified Union School District to the Wyndham Southeast School District would be personnel time, and there's no other consequence. I heard it. I don't remember the answer to Emily or to the question about legal implications.
Yeah. So we've also moved ahead with registering the domain names, WSEUUSD.net.org and .com as all a way to preserve that option. So there is some expense that's been incurred for that that would be done. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I guess my other thought is, I echo the sentiment that this should be a decision that's thoughtful and involves much of our community, and I think that this is the first time I have thought about this, and I'm not sure about other people, and I wonder about the benefit to having more time to make a more thoughtful decision with more people at the table. And to me, in order to get that, we move forward with either the motion as it stands or the existing name, and then, as Jody said, plan to come back to it. If we plan to come back to it, I'm not sure I see the benefit in changing the motion as it stands.
Any other discussion, Kim?
Well, I think if we were to come back to it, it would just be to change, not the official name. It would be to change
The doing business as.
The doing business name.
Yep. Okay. Yes, Andy.
Yeah, I think it's an important discussion, and I hesitated to even speak since you're doing such a good job of covering it. But WSEUUD is a very ungainly acronym. I mean, I hope people don't start referring to that as "we sued." You have to be careful about acronyms. Sometimes people name their children and then their initials are an unfortunate combination. It's very ungainly, and if the point of this is to unify and to work together, this seems like, you know, now we find out that domain names have been invested in. We've been pulled by the tail to this point. I think I would encourage your board to stick to your guns and take charge.
All right, Christine.
As having an ungainly domain name and web address, I wish I could go back and change our company's domain address, and I think this would be filled with issues. Every letter you put in when you're searching for something makes it more difficult to find it. So I'm constantly going to Washington Central, Washington, you know, other WSEUs, so if we start to add more letters, I think it's more problematic.
Kelly? Grab a mic.
Oh, sorry. I'm just wondering if you said that money has already been expended, how much is that? How much money has been expended already? That you are thinking would have to be undone or done again with a different name?
Yeah, the registration is about $500 for all of the .net, the .com, the .org, and there's also a .info.
If domain names are part of our consideration, WSSD.org is already taken.
Okay, good time.
WSESD?
I didn't try that.
That's the one.
So keeping the E even though it's...
William Southeast School
Okay.
District.
I just wish that there was a way we could have waited until we did this before doing anything.
Me too. Yeah, this is extremely frustrating for all of us at the central office in that we're having to try to manage, you know, 2 or 3 scenarios, and we're getting conflicting direction. It's really a very difficult situation.
I understand. We've been dealing with it.
Emily?
WSESD.org is also already taken.
I know we have a motion on the table, we have to vote on it, but I would like to make the suggestion that I think Jody made a few minutes ago, in that we essentially go with what we have for right now, and then we can switch to doing business as later and make some changes, and that way we can at least move on and not be stuck with this, because we can be checking domain names, but also I think that some folks in the audience and others made the recommendation that we do something that is not an acronym for you know, what we get stuck with. So let's maybe just go, if we can maybe remove the motion that's on the table, go ahead and just stick with what we have for now, with the plan of changing to doing business as to something in the future to make those changes.
That means that the state and everybody else is going to refer to us continually as the acronym.
You know, our website and our kind of our public persona can be a different name. When there's a legal transaction, particularly between the IRS and the new entity, the whole setup with the state in terms of school funding, you know, the way they make the ACH payments out, yeah, they will obviously be that sort of office reference point continuously. But you know, in terms of the annual reports and what's on the budget on the web page, I believe I have not done this before, so I have to do some more research on it. But I'm looking at some of the guidance, and they specifically say, you know, use the legal name. Do not use a DBA for any of the registration processes, which is primarily the IRS and the state of Vermont, various agencies, and the federal granting agencies.
Yes.
Just a question. So if I was a parent of a student and I wanted to look up something on the school district on the State Department's website, I would have to know this name, not the DBA name. Would it make it more difficult for me as a community member to find it?
No, I know we can link, you know, you can do any number of links, you know, to a different site. So, you know, one reason why we did move as soon as we got the direction to move was that we knew that these domain names, there are so many, Wyndhams and Windsors and so on, they would get picked up. But I believe we have been doing that for a long time, where we've had an old domain name for Wyndham Southeast that's been redirected to WSEUUSD.org for a long time. We could do any of those conventions.
Can I say a second thing? If you do then do a DBA in the future, it might be a great chance to get the community involved by proposing out a few names and then having them somehow, I don't know how the voting can happen, but actually have ownership of the name, because it seems kind of a nice start to a collaboration. So something like that could be worked out. I think that would be nice.
Voting vote-based school district.
Anybody else? All right. So I know there was a motion on the floor, and I made the suggestion that we remove that motion.
Fine with that.
You're fine with that, having made the motion? So are we good with going with, I'm going to move that we go with the Wyndham Southeast Unified Union School District for now, and then in the future, whether it's us or the new elected board, we'll change that to doing business as, and hopefully someone will come up with some great name to come up with, or as suggested by the audience, somebody from the community, you know, we can get the community more engaged. Everybody good with that?
Second. So, is this discussion time? Was I supposed to wait?
You're good.
Okay.
Give a second.
So, the way Quakers get consensus is you wait till everyone's exhausted and half the people leave the room, and then whoever's left is how you get consensus. It's 9:30, I'm exhausted, we've come off of 3 or 4 days of the flu or vomiting or something. It's bad news. So I've got like toast in my system right now. So that being said, today is my first day on the job. But this vote doesn't feel like a vote on this. This vote feels like all the videos I watched where the AOE told our administration what to tell us to do, and why I ran for school board, and why I'm so concerned, because I was wondering, where do we express ourselves in our communities? Where is our space as engaged, intelligent, educated, and participatory democracy to push back? And at every turn, our identity seems to be taken from us. And I am ready to walk away from this process and say, sure, because I don't want to waste 500 taxpayer dollars, because I know what that means to people who are trying to put food on the table. So in my head, I either get to vote to waste money and time right now, and make quite a few people staring at me in a camera swear at the camera and throw whatever they throw at the camera, or I get to say that I want a name which makes no sense, Wyndham Southeast Unified Union School District Transition Board, which seems like if I've got to say unified twice when I don't feel that way, it's
a yucky feeling. So, and I don't mean that with my friends and my neighbors. I mean that with the people who are telling me what my name is. So I guess that's the struggle I'm in. I'd like to move this. I'd like to go home to bed, frankly. But this is the first moment of the first day, and it means so much more. So tell me what to do, my friends, because I don't want to waste $500 and Frank and Lyle's time. And if we were live streaming this on FaceTime, my wife would be screaming at me to come home.
So we have a motion on the table. I'm trying to answer your question too, Jamie. I'm not trying to expose, but essentially we sort of have a process that we're in the middle of. If somebody has a great answer, different than their motion, cool. I don't know what to say, or we can just go ahead and move forward with where we are with our motion, and that's sort of telling you giving you some direction, hopefully. It's not easy. It's not an easy process. It does, in parts of it, I'm going to be totally honest with you, I've been on the school board for the better part of the last 18 years, and nothing feels as yucky as the last year and a half of stuff to me. So I'm with you in the yucky. I'm with you with the yucky. But we need to, I think for our kids and our communities, we need to start moving forward, and if this is that first little baby step we take towards doing that tonight, and then next Monday
This
we'll come.
is not the first baby step.
No, but as the transitional board, it really is. And then next Monday we'll come back at it again.
But it's our direction. I think what Jamie's saying is, it's our first step to getting where we want to be, not where the state wants us to be.
I hear you.
And I agree with Jamie on that. I just don't know what to do.
Right. Well, we could just sit here and not vote, and then not move, but nobody wants to do that either, so.
Well, it might not make a whole lot of difference. We're meeting next week, and a week isn't going to make a lot of difference for Frank to make those changes. He said they didn't take that long to do.
I want to make the decision tonight.
Can I just say something?
There you go.
Jody, I know that the changes that he made won't take time, but the DUNS number and all the other stuff that we have to do after does take time. A couple of months. So if we want to make up and running, we need to make a decision one way or other tonight. As hard as that is, and as much as we don't want to, but we have to.
And I also, I wouldn't undo something without knowing what I'm supposed to do as a successor. So it would be, I would, start wherever we decide from the, future degree.
Doing a lot of listening here, but it strikes me as this is not the time to be doing our protest dance. I think we should approve the name as appropriate, let it on, and we can do a DBA at a later time. I think we need to get past this and get moving towards working to make the kids' education better.
As chair, I'm hearing that as a call to question, so. Yeah, Jody, you have something?
I was just going to recommend that we make it the Fort Dummer Education District. That takes the whole area here that's been the Fort Dummer area.
All right, so we have a motion on the table. If nobody has anything else to say related to that, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Abstentions?
Abstaining.
Abstaining.
Okay, I'm gonna need to see hands now, because I heard kind of, okay, all in favor? Aye. 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? 1. And abstaining? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so the motion passes.
I think you have to have at least 5, or is it 6, to pass a motion with a body of 8 or 10
Wait a minute, I thought 5 was the one that got it.
Yeah, but if 5 was abstaining, she's doing nothing.
Okay.
All right, so I think you're right, David, and I'm sorry, I was thinking of the new board is only going to be 8 people, so I saw 4, you know, and that's the board that I'm on is only 8 people, so that's what I'm used to.
So the motion doesn't pass.
So the motion doesn't pass. So now we sit here and...
No, I will remove that we rename us the Wyndham Southeast School District. Ask people to vote that straight up.
All right, moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
So Frank? Yeah, just the issue Emily's raised, though, could have somewhat significant implications in that we would not be able to secure those domain names. Typically, you align your email accounts and the board member identity with the acronym, but we would not be able to do that based on what's available now. Just consideration.
Yes.
I just want to say, I know this isn't typically the educational suffix, but WSEUUSD.com is available for sale.
I was going to suggest that at the school.
What was it? Can you say that again?
WSEUUSD.com is available for sale. I don't think any of the other suffixes that you mentioned are, as far as I can tell. Some of them said not accessible, so maybe that's for sale. The EDU one was taken.
WSEUUSD. Yes.
Southeast District.
School District.
.com is for sale.
Without the S in it.
The rest of them.
Yeah, we wouldn't. Yeah, we wouldn't want to have a .com. We would want a .org. As a nonprofit state entity.
There's no numeral you can put with it?
It could. You could.
Yeah. David?
I'd like to call the question.
All right. So, let me make sure I have this right. It's to change our name to the Wyndham Southeast School District?
Yes.
Okay, so and then WSEUUSD would be, for at least now, our acronym.
And you could add a number to it.
For if we needed to change for something over related to the website. All right, so all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Or abstentions? Abstaining? Okay, so it passes. So our new name is Wyndham Southeast School District. All right. Yes, David.
I think we're probably going to have a motion to adjourn pretty quickly. I just wanted to find out what will be the process for getting items onto the agenda for the next meeting or the next couple of meetings.
I don't know about the other boards, but typically as board chair, I usually get communications from the administration about what needs to go on. I think that they need emotion movement on the agenda, and then work with Barb to create the agenda. So I would say if you send ideas and anything you need on the agenda to me, we'll get the meeting at least warned for Monday, tomorrow, and then we can get the agenda out later this week so that we'll have a few days to deal with the agenda. Emily?
What I want to understand really clearly who will be publicizing our election date of May 21 and the petition deadline for our towns.
That'll go.
We will make sure that the petitions are available at Town Clerk's tomorrow morning. They'll be there by 8 o'clock. And then we will, as we always do, we send out the warnings. It goes to all the town offices. It's posted on our website. I assume most towns post it on theirs.
I'm really concerned that people don't know anything about this at this point, and I think that it's going to be up to us probably to corral some people and see if they're interested in running, because I haven't seen a lot of publicity around anywhere on a lot of this, so we know what's going on, but, and I know Guilford is heavily in body today, so they know, but there's got to be more publicity.
Well, I know we have a couple of newspapers here tonight. Hopefully they'll help us out, BCTV. And it would be great if each of you at your individual boards, make sure you announce it. And we can, I assume we can put out a public service announcement on radio. That would be another way.
I'd love to see the Reformer. By the time the comments comes out again, it's going to be later, but I'd love to see a front page headline in the Reformer saying, you know, people needed to run for this board.
Well, not to put any pressure on Chris from the Reformer, but I don't think he makes the decision on what goes on the front page and what the headline is, but I think he can pass on the suggestion for you. All right. So we do have sort of the plan that we have. Yes, Jim?
If we want to put something in the agenda, we use your WSEUUSD address.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I know Dummerston has a different address, but you do have it.
WSEUUSD address, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. We talked about publicizing, talked about agenda for Monday's meeting. Anything else tonight to come before us? All right. Yes.
I'll be Ruth Barton tonight and say, I move we be adjourned.
Moved and seconded?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, we are adjourned until Monday at 6 o'clock, hopefully in the Cusick Conference Room.